Hey guys, Vermont Prepper here, and I'm driving, and I happen to be kind of scrolling through the boards of one of the groups that I'm on, and I see a big debate over whether Trump is coming for your guns as a result of this new ATF rule that bans bump stocks outright, where you either have to destroy them or turn them in. So I guess my feeling on that is that you hear things from both sides, right? No matter what side of the gun control that you're on or lack thereof. I'm generally a supporter of the Second Amendment. I think Trump, in this case, is probably doing a little bit of his deal making, kind of placating a little bit of the left, because you don't hear much noise from the NRA. I think the NRA actually supported the ban, or they've been very silent, if not. Now that said, you know, there are some that can say, well, this is the first step. And whether or not it is, I have no idea. But what I will tell you is that Trump has proven to be unpredictable for the most part. And I think that's his MO. Like, I don't know if he wants people to know what he's thinking deep down. And sometimes maybe he goes with the whim or reacts based on political circumstances. However, in this case, I really think that he's more placating the left to a certain extent, which is really not. I mean, why he's doing that, I have no idea. I don't think it placates the left at all as far as gun control. And probably even wrong for me to say left, because in Vermont we have a lot of Democrats that are gun supporters. So let me retract that statement. Let's say instead of the left, let's say those who want extreme gun control. And as I drive through New York here, this is case in point. You know, Governor Cuomo is as close to communist as he possibly can be, and is not a gun supporter at all. And I believe that, you know, he even recently said that New York is independent of the federal government. And that's great if they are, but I think with that there has to be some consequences. I believe in government. I believe that we need a government. I don't believe in huge government or government overreach, but there has to be a government. Otherwise, society will just fall because of the human nature and natural animalistic instincts. So we need a government. But for Cuomo to say that New York State is independent of the federal government is absurd. I mean, what if the federal government just went ahead and cut off funding to New York? You know, they'd be up a creek. So he ought to shut his mouth. In any event, I want to get back to the gun control. And I usually don't do too many political rants because I know there's people on both sides. So I'm trying to be objective about it. But keep in mind, I am a Second Amendment supporter. And like I said, in Vermont, we do have a strong Second Amendment for the most part, with the exception of the latest ruling that you cannot have greater than 10 rounds in a new magazine for a rifle or 15 in a pistol. And that's being challenged right now in court, and as a violation of the Vermont Constitution, which is a little bit different. And if you're a constitutionalist, they may have a case here. I know other Like in the other communist state of California, it's been upheld that you can keep the magazines to a maximum of 10 rounds in a rifle. Vermont, the Constitution is a little bit different. So the gun supporters are hoping that this particular ruling is going to be overturned in the Vermont State Supreme Court. Who knows? But I really feel that, you know, those who feel that on the extreme right side that the government is coming for your guns, I highly, highly doubt that this country will ever be disarmed. There's over 300 million guns in the United States by some estimates. There's no way that the government can enforce a confiscation of guns. No way. Unless they have all-out Civil War, military door-to-door confiscation. And I don't really believe in that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think in general there are Second Amendment supporters in Congress right now, especially the Senate. The House, hey, you know, we lost it. And I am a Republican for right now, but I'm a Republican without the blinders, okay? But what we have right now in the House is Democrats that have all been endorsed by Gun Sense, and they no doubt will try and introduce new legislation regarding gun control, no doubt. My hope is that the Senate will just shut it down, and we'll see. I gotta kind of
watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Gotta put my my camera down because I didn't know if the vehicle stopped ahead was a cop. Anyway, all right, I'm back where you can see the road now. In any event, in Vermont now, there's actually a little bit of a scare. The biggest group in Vermont is the Gun Owners of Vermont, and they're the ones who filed the lawsuit against the bump stock ban in Vermont, as well as the magazine ban. And I think most people can live with the bump stock ban, which is why I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Very few people have them. It's not going to affect very many people. But the big problem is that Governor Scott, who was a strong gun supporter at one point, was the one who actually signed the 10-round magazine rule or law into effect in Vermont. So the good thing is that they grandfathered in magazines that you already had. So there's a lot of people running around with plenty of magazines that will last them through a lifetime. So I don't think that those who had magazines before are going to be affected. It's those who didn't have very many, that maybe didn't have the money to really stock up on them, or maybe some of the rare Republicans in Vermont who wanted to get into weaponry. Well, you can't really do that anymore in Vermont. It's a way that they've kind of clamped down, and it really hurt the businesses, the gun shops in Vermont. But the big thing is that elections have consequences, right? So there's a big uproar when Governor Scott did this, and he's going to lose all his support base from the Republicans because he's a Republican, but he's I think he's Republican in name only, a rhino. He doesn't really support the Republican agenda in Vermont. If you're going to be a Republican and get elected, there's no way you can say that you're a Trump supporter. So, you know, he disavows himself from Trump. He's left-leaning on immigration, and in my view, he kind of went back on his word on gun control. But the big thing is that, he had said that he doesn't want any more gun control. Who knows? We still have constitutional carry, right? You don't have to have a permit. And it's like that in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So the 3 states all have constitutional carry. So it's pretty great up there as far as that goes. But the Democrats now in Vermont, after elections, as I said, elections have consequences. They now have a supermajority. And all of the Democrats that won are strong anti-gun supporters. So they want extreme gun control, and they're going to probably try and place a assault weapons ban. Who knows if that's going to get through? Maybe that'll wake up actual real gun supporters. Who the heck knows to vote? Maybe they'll vote next time. But in any event, I'm hoping that calmer heads will prevail, and they won't go crazy to try and enable more gun control, because they have power right now to overturn any governor veto. So even if Scott does veto gun control legislation, any new legislation, the Democrat supermajority has the ability to overturn it. So there's a lot of people worried right now in Vermont that own guns. Now, Vermont has always been, even Democrats, like when Shumlin was in, he was a Democrat, never really, and they had a Democrat legislature then. They could have done it then. So maybe we're a little bit worried about it more than usual, and I think that's what's happening here with the bump stock ruling. I think we're a little bit too worried about it. Right, and there's good reason, because they say that's the start of things. Okay, I get it, I understand. But at the same time, you have both sides of this of gun control saying that their side is the right way. And I don't really think either side is the right way. I mean, I don't think anybody disagrees that a person with mental health problems, real mental health problems, should have a weapon. I believe that everyone would agree that they should not, right? But the question is, how do you determine that?
Police reported ahead.
Oh, police reported ahead. Let's put it back down. We don't want the New York police to catch me filming and get a ticket. I already got a ticket here once for not having a blinker signal when I switched lanes. They gave me it was a $120 ticket, believe it or not, for just not turning my blinker on when I switched from the left to the right lane, which is absolutely absurd. That's why I call New York a communist state, okay? Because it really is. It's awful. Beautiful, beautiful state. And I'm from New Jersey myself, which, again, I call that a communist state as well. In New Jersey, talk about that while I'm on my rant, they went so far not only to ban those who have, the regular civilians that have more than 10 rounds. I'm going to take my chances and put my camera back up. I didn't see any cops, but it's good old ways. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Anyway, in New Jersey, they have the 10-round magazine ban for civilians, but they've also banned it for off-duty police officers to have more than 10 rounds in their weapons. So that's very, very controversial. And I've seen articles where some of the police officers said they're not going to comply. And I get their point of view, but they shouldn't throw stones when people in the civilian world say the same thing, right? The Second Amendment was not written because there's too many deer, or there's not enough deer. They're not protecting the deer, right? The Second Amendment was written for government tyranny, to protect against government tyranny. So, I don't know, that's a tough one. I want the police officers to have as much weaponry as possible, because they have it tough, both in New York and New Jersey, with some of the gangs. You know, it's like World War III there in some of the areas, like Newark, and some of the boroughs in New York. It's really bad. You know, look at Long Island, MS-13 there. I mean, they have a huge presence there. So the police, I don't want them outgunned, right? I want them to be able to establish rule of law. And at the same time, you can't just say as a police officer that you're not going to comply. That's you're sworn to uphold the law. And if that's what the law is in New Jersey, that's what it is, right? I comply with the law. I don't say that I'm not going to comply with anything because I don't want to get in trouble. So, any event, this is a very divisive subject. And while I'm driving down to Florida for the Christmas break, I just decided, well, let me pontificate a little bit about it. And as always, I'm interested in comments, questions, concerns. Maybe you totally disagree with me, but I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't think anybody's right. I think there's a happy medium to be had between everybody. But at the same time, again, mostly a Second Amendment supporter, but you really need to find a way to properly diagnose mental disorders, right? You can't just go say, okay, if somebody has anxiety, that's a mental disorder. They might just get worried about stuff. That doesn't mean they're going to go mow people down. It's not going to happen. That to me is absurd. It's the person that is withdrawn, possibly depressed, diagnosed, spends time in a hospital. I mean, those are the people that really shouldn't have weapons. And I don't think people disagree in general. Those who are Second Amendment supporters don't disagree. But maybe there are some people that are just like these overzealot Second Amendment supporters that at all costs, you know, Moulin Lob or Labe, whatever you call it. That's ridiculous, because if the government's coming for your guns, you can Moulin Labe all you want. They're going to get them. All right, so stop with that. It's nonsense. Unless you have like a militias all around, you know, rebelling. It's not going to happen.
Police reported ahead.
Oh, here we go. Police again. They're all out for holidays. They got to get their end-of-year tax money in, especially in New York, because they're running a huge deficit here. In any event, once I get the camera back up, I'll let you guys go. You probably heard enough of my rant. I really appreciate you listening to it. It's kind of off the cuff here as I was driving again. I'll check back in at another time. All right, guys. Vermont Prepper out, and as always, keep prepping.